Okay, so let's take a moment to just get ourselves settled here, letting go of the busyness of getting here, letting go of the planning for later. And bring to mind the reason why you decided to show up. Mm-hmm. And try to generate a positive intention to use this time well based on that reason. And try to combine it with the wish that it not just benefit yourself, but that it ripples out to benefit all beings. And you can set a motivation like I'm exploring or investigating the teachings on karma in order to make progress on my spiritual path. Even so that you can even think, and if it's possible to become enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings, I'm going for it. We may not be certain yet that it's possible, but that's okay. If it is possible, we want to be progressing towards it. And again, not just for ourselves, but because we know that the only way to truly benefit others is to remove all ignorance, remove all the afflictions and their imprints, have fully developed compassion and wisdom. So let's recite the four immeasurables. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. And may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. In the seven limb prayer, pausing after each line so that we can do more than just parrot the words. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. An offering. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. So I really try to picture, this is our opportunity to use our imagination for merit, for the sake of merit. And then confession. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginning in this time. For me, the easiest one to do when it's this short one, when you're just like reading the seven limb prayer, not doing your purification practice, is for me, it's just, I can just think of all the time I've wasted, all the idle time, idle speech, idle whatever. And then rejoicing, and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. And really just be happy that there's so much evidence of our Buddha nature, our Buddha potential that manifest in ordinary beings, all the positive actions. And our request, please remain until the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. So this is making the wish that we keep receiving teachings. And then dedication. I dedicate my own merits and those of all others to the great enlightenment.
We say we are addressing
Teachers.
teachers.
And basically, really the teachings. So, so that until all sentient beings are enlightened, the Buddha said that if Ananda had only asked him to stay, he could have stayed for another 300 years. But he didn't ask, so he didn't stay. Because you have to create the cause. It's not magic. It's a give and take. So we have to create the cause to meet the teachings. So that's why they say when a teacher falls ill, that they're manifesting the aspect of falling ill, and it's due to the lack of merit in the students. It has nothing to do with the teacher.
That's not a good thing.
Well, it's supposed to hopefully make you decide that you've got to do more of your part. We have to take responsibility for the teaching staying alive, which makes perfect sense. What's the point of teaching if there's no one listening? So it's that relative truth, the only thing that makes a teacher is students, and vice versa. So, okay, and now the refuge prayer. Page 98 in the prayer book. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Okay. So we've been looking at the links that connect us from life to life to life to life, as long as we're stuck in samsara. So, we have any questions from last week? Or should we just start again? So remember that the only kind of seed that can ripen at the time of death is a complete karmic, a seed that's planted due to a complete action, where all the parts of a complete action are complete. So those are called projecting karmas, or throwing karmas, or fruitional karmas, So the first part of the process is our ignorance. It's because we have innate ignorance that we just misunderstand how things exist, and that because we come from that basis, that our actions, that's what karmic formation is an action, its support is ignorance. That places a seed in the next moment on your consciousness, whatever the next, so these are all just moments, due to our ignorance, we do an action, that action places a seed. It may be an incomplete seed, it may be a complete seed, you know, whatever, on our mental continuum. Those are all considered projecting causes for, this is a, you know, if this is a complete seed, it's a projecting cause of a future rebirth, you know, when it ripens. So these are all considered projecting causes, because that has to happen. And what it takes to happen is you have to be stuck in samsara. We don't accumulate karma when we're not in samsara. Karma is only relevant in samsara. So so having that as the main influencer of our mind, it is part of the sequence of how we get stuck. So because we grasp at a self, then our actions have that taint to them, you know, and then that plants a seed. Then for that seed to ripen at the time of death, before you die, you have, you know, this craving, the mind of craving, which usually is that you don't want to let go of this body, this life, you know. Then you have grasping as it gets close. You really don't want to let go. You really want, or at very least, you want to be born human, you know. So you're really starting to cling tightly. That is the condition for the seed to start ripening, to actualize it. So it's called becoming. Okay, it hasn't entered into your next body or anything, but it's activated. Okay, so those are called establishing causes.
So at the time of death, our mind is craving, we want to stay here. And then the grasping.
That's just, it gets more intense. I had a friend who would always say, she says, I'm not so worried about, she said, I'm totally confident in that there's rebirth, but I'm not ready to let go of this life.
Somebody told me that yesterday. It was her birthday. She said, I'm not ready to give up my life.
Well, you don't have to give up. That's not the point. The point is that eventually, well, it's not even that.
Yeah.
But eventually we die.
Yeah.
And we'll know it unless we've been shot in the back of the head. You know, there's going to be a sense of that, you know, that we're getting close, that our, you know, bodies can't sustain. I watch my stepmom and it's very clear that, you know, it's getting closer. I don't know how close, I mean, you know, but it's definitely closer. She's everything about her reflects the things of where your body is losing that ability to support life. You know,
I feel it now.
no, you don't.
Okay.
You know,
I just, I don't know. Every time I see my doctor, it's something new.
yeah, but that doesn't, that's very
That's how
different.
he makes his card thing.
That's very different from that sense if that it's failing now.
That's the worry. That would be the right and things you've done in the past.
No, it's
New problems now, or is that?
well, yeah, that's a ripening.
Past
Yeah,
life
past
stuff?
life stuff, you know. Yeah, everything that happens to us is a ripening, you know. So, but it's also part of the all pervasive, you know, nature of samsara being suffering. It's just the result of conditioning. These bodies are not designed to last forever. They don't last forever. They're going to fail. And that's true, period. I mean, that's, you know, the cause of, you know, death is birth. So, you know, that's just in there. That's part of the deal. So the time of death, the state of mind that happens to arise is the condition for a particular seed to ripen, to activate, to actualize. Okay.
What seed? What seed?
You don't know.
We don't.
No, we're out of control due to our habits.
So let me ask you, so my mom was 101 when she died.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
and she said, I'm ready to go. She wasn't grasping.
Mm-hmm.
We were all, she wasn't hanging. She said, I'm ready. So
I would be
what,
too.
So what was her? So her mindset wasn't grasping or trying to craving.
But she probably wasn't. She probably was still clinging to existence. She might be ready to go, meaning I'm ready to meet God. I'm ready to be in heaven. I'm ready to, for my next life, whatever it may mean. But it's still this sense of I, But that's can be a really peaceful condition,
So that would possibly.
Maybe.
The more positive your mind is.
The better it is. So the more positive your mind is, the better it is. Yeah. Peaceful mind is really good. This is why you don't want to be crying next to your loved one as they're dying. You don't want to make them grasp. You don't want to bring your grandchildren in, or their grandchildren in, or their great grandchildren in. You're going to miss their graduation from kindergarten. You don't want to do that kind of thing. You don't want it to be a condition for them to grasp at this life. And whatever you can do to make them feel very peaceful, that they've done a good job in this life, nothing to hold on to, everybody's going to be fine, all those things, whatever religion they're in, to support them in their view, whatever will make them feel okay mentally. Any questions at home? Okay. So these projecting causes and establishing causes have effects. So the establishing or actualizing causes, their effects, this craving, grasping, and becoming, is birth and aging and death. Because from birth, that's it. That's the only option. Aging and death. Or enlightenment, but we're not including that in this picture of the links of samsara. For those seeds, the seed that ripens, the projecting or throwing or fruitional seed that ripened at the moment of death, its results specifically are the consciousness that arises in the next birth, life, put it, the forming of your aggregates, the sense sources or sense objects, which are the sense powers. That's this very subtle physical thing, the site of each of your sense organs that's going to allow consciousness to enter it when it's time. Our sense consciousnesses aren't like our mental consciousness. They're not always present. They're dependent on a physical organ and these physical sense powers. Okay. Then feeling, which is the state of mind that arises with everything, but the pleasant, unpleasant, neutral kind of thing. And contact. Contact is the object, consciousness, and the sense power coming together so that you are aware of the object. And that generates a feeling. Or is a condition for a feeling to arise, whatever. It's part of that same mind. And he just repeated the craving, grasping, and becoming because I don't know why he did that. Oh, that has to happen, pardon me, for the I'm not sure why he did that. This is from Alex Berzin. I just thought it would be nice to see all of them all up there at the same time instead of just the words with the definitions and all that stuff. So even though we talk about them in a particular order, in the wheel of life, that tanka or that picture, that's in these 12 link order 1 through 12, you know, that they actually don't arise that in that order. Because the ignorance, karmic formation, and consciousness at the time of the action, or the, you know, the next moment when the action is complete, happens in a life before, and it can be eons before that particular seed ripens. So it definitely does not happen in the same life as birth, aging, and death, because that's a new life. Yeah. But the keys for us, you know, are just this remembering that it matters, you know, to trying to be aware when our craving is going towards grasping, you know, whether when we think about our own demise, you know, whether we go into that kind of place of, oh, I'm not ready, I won't be ready, or I won't, you know, blah, 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 or I think I'm ready, that's good too. I mean, that's, you know, we want to be ready, you know, but we want to see what kind of thoughts we have, and do they revolve around being attached to this life? You know, as I shared before, I had a friend, she was the chaplain at the Kadama Center in Raleigh. She said, you know, and she's, you know, she had a 27-year-old daughter who was pregnant, you know, and she's wasn't going to see that happen. Yeah, and so she said, I'm really sad about leaving my child and my partner and my life, you know, blah, 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 but my bags are packed and I'm ready for the next adventure. So it doesn't have to be, you know, it's this knowledge that there's loss, you know, but not this idea that that's the end. There's no future happiness, you know, just because there's loss. Yeah. The more that we can remind ourselves that our consciousness does not cease, that can be reassuring to us if we have that fear of ceasing to exist. So this story ceases to exist. There is no I that just continues on. It's just, you know, they're not like we grasp after, you know, but our subtle mind, with carrying all our imprints and seeds, keep going. You know? And people that we have strong attachment towards or aversion towards, we'll see again. You know, until we become enlightened. You know. But well, you know, so it's like there's really nothing to worry about in terms of that. You know, what we want, yeah.
So it's not liking something, you know, I think back in my life, a lot of things I didn't like and was negative about. Is that planting a seed?
Yeah, that's planting a seed.
But yet, you can't like everything.
No, the difference between preference is not a problem. Preference is really kind of a result of our habits and, you know, the bodies we're born with, all that kind of stuff. Preference is not a problem. It's grasping at preference. So, you know, the things we don't like, people we don't like, you know, but then we have aversion to some things where we really get ugly in our minds about those people or those things. You know, how could anybody, you know, like this or like that, or, you know, we get a little crazy about it. You know, that's a mind we want to try to abandon. You know, because it's based on a story that we've completely made up. It's based on ignorance, not seeing things as they actually exist. You know, it's based on our bias. You know, it's just a totally made up thing. So it's a real good example of how ignorance, you know, influences these states of attachment and aversion. We don't understand how they exist, and we exaggerate our response to them.
So what's up, when I feel that I am inordinately attached to something, I know that, but I don't go there, you know, I try not to go there.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't act on it, that's
I don't act on
helpful, you know. And also if you try to use your reasoning of why it's ridiculous that, you know, you have that strong attachment. So that's where we just use our reasoning to kind of go, what's that about? Oh, it's because, you know, whatever. I mean, it depends on your story, right? You come up with some story and you want to dismantle that story so that you can, so that mind of attachment loses its power, you know. So one way it loses its power is if we don't act on it. Another way it loses its power is through our reasoning to see it didn't have any power to begin with, you know, but we have to work that through. So it's one thing, you know, most people can't quite give up their attachment to their children, you know, or to their partner, but they might be able to give it up to chocolate cake and you know, going to, you know, whatever it is. We all, you know, we get attached to all kinds of things, and we really think to ourselves, I have to have this, you know, and that's just not a good mind to keep practicing, because of course it's not true. You will not die without it. You will have happiness without it. You know, it's just not. The only way you'll be miserable is you keep thinking that I don't have it. You know, you can make yourself miserable, but that it's not coming from the object. It's entirely coming from your mind. So, yeah, we create all ours.
Creating the suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how we, you know, so we create mental suffering on top of whatever actual, you know, like the body failing, you know, you know, it's like, it's not just that the body's failing. That means I'm getting old. That means I'm getting near death. You know, we just pile it on, you know, like a Dagwood sandwich. You know, it's just like ridiculous. And I'm showing my age again.
Must have cancer.
Yeah, yeah. It's just, you know, so it's bad enough that you have you know, all the things that come with aging, or all the things that come with illness, all the things, you know, that's samsara, and it's a lousy deal, but we don't need to add to it. You know, and that's something we can give up with being aware, and then using our reasoning, going, why am I trying to make myself feel worse? Or I have enough to worry about without making this worse, you know, all that kind of stuff. And that feeling that you have to have something one way or another, whether it's aversion or attachment or, you know, whatever, that when you really let yourself feel it, is miserable. It's not a pleasant feeling, you know. Infatuation somehow, you know, like is a false, you know, advertisement for attachment, you know, because it seems like, well, it's not so bad, you know. And infatuation, you know, but it's a total blinder of reality, you know. So anyway, I was very fond of infatuation. So yes, Elaine.
So there's something I'm not clear on. If everybody's like projecting their stories onto whatever,
Everything.
then how do you ever know when you're seeing things as they really are, whatever that means?
You don't until you actually, you know, you study, you learn about what the Buddha meant by that, you know, then you develop your concentration so you can reflect more and more pointedly on it, you know. But mainly you just kind of look, and you can, you know, in very simple ways, see how you're making stuff up. You know, like you take a situation, you can't do it usually in the thick of it. Sometimes you can with, you know, when you practiced it a lot, you can. But if if you're new to it, you kind of afterwards you look back and think, I got so mad at this in this event or something, or I was so impatient. And you look at it, what was the cause of that? Oh, it was because I was in a hurry and I wanted this to happen and I wanted to happen now. And I'm blaming that other person for it not happening now, and you see that if we hadn't exaggerated our own self-importance, if we had left on time and hadn't made an errand, at the same time, gee, maybe we wouldn't have even had this experience, So it's about recognizing that we're constantly making up stories, and we'll include people. We'll say, God, of course I got the new person at the register, they don't know what they're doing. It has nothing to do with the fact that I left my house late and decided to run the errand anyway, that I'm running late, No.
When they take the checkbook out.
Oh yeah, like after it's all rung up and everything's bagged already, and then you finally go, oh, I guess I have to pay for this, Yeah. So, and we really think that our misery of impatience is their fault. Because after all, everybody's here to serve us. In particular, y'all might think that's true, but it's me. So we need to see this in there. We need to be able to look, where am I in this picture? And is it helping me or hurting me? Because we exaggerate our importance. We exaggerate the qualities of someone else based on whether we're getting what we want or not. We draw conclusions about the competence or incompetence of somebody based on whether or not we're getting what we want. We really need to be aware of how much that gets in the way of our lives. This thinking that, I remember I was I went to a retreat with Thich Nhat Hanh, and when it was time to leave, so there were, all the people, the retreat are all leaving at the same time in a tiny little airport or whatever. And there's something like either bad weather or flight, I don't know. But anyway, everybody's flight was delayed, and, like 300 people waiting for, their planes or something. And not a single person was upset. And the person at the, helping us kept saying, I can't believe y'all are not all, screaming maniacs, But it's because we just gotten off retreat, so it didn't last and it doesn't last, but it's just, but it lasted the entire time we were waiting. Nobody really was upset. So, it's all about the mind, And the way reality is that things fall apart, things don't work, things, nothing goes according to plan. This is samsara. That's that all-pervasive conditioning of samsara. You'll never make samsara perfect. It is not perfect by definition. It is the nature of suffering. Okay. That help, Elaine, or not help, or yeah. We really need to be able to step back from ourselves and kind of look at the movie we're creating. Humor is very helpful, but also honesty, really being able to see, oh, there I go again,
Wondering about people that are so, physically sick and so depressed because of it. And they really are wishing daily, minute by minute, that they're going to die. I want to die. I want to die.
Yeah. What are they attached to?
The
Life.
misery that they created, I don't know.
It's actually life. Living
Yeah.
life. Actually living.
No, there's this one person in particular, but there's a lot of people like this. I mean, he wants to die, he can't wait. And he's mad every morning that he's.
Because it's not going according to plan.
Yeah, right.
It's still about him.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah. Can you do anything about that?
Mhm.
No.
Could always be worse.
Well, not to him.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, while I was here, I got a call from my doctor, and it was a good call because my appointment is in April, but he wanted to know if I should reschedule for March, but I don't really need to. And that's good news.
See, there you go. You see that assumption that my doctor's calling this can't be good, you know.
Well, it's not the best, but if it was really bad, he would have said, I have to see you next week.
Yes.
Yeah, so.
We don't give those results over the phone. That's my personal favorite.
Right.
Like, okay, really?
You just did.
So, anyway, okay. So, karma. So what do we know about karma?
That it's definite,
It's definite,
Yeah,
dynamic,
that's what I was
dynamic,
specific.
that's sort of definite. Anything else? That's not really one of its things, but it can be. Yes, it can be purified.
Faith in karma causes enlightenment.
Faith in karma causes enlightenment. Yes, well, that's true, but that's still not one of the elements of karma, but that is true.
Doesn't go to waste.
It doesn't go to waste
Yeah.
unless it's purified, destroyed by anger. And then, so it's dynamic, it's definite, it doesn't go to waste. And what's really one of the most important ones to remember? Isn't that really unfair of me? Yes.
Specific. Remember.
Well, maybe so, because this might be what you mean by specific, and I may have even used that word, I just can't remember. But you can only experience the results of actions you did. So
How is karma?
it increases, karma increases. So
It spreads too.
it spreads, it increases and it spreads. You know, but it's just like the easy image is just of like an apple tree. You plant one little lousy seed and you get this big tree with lots of apples on it and lots more seeds, you know, and then the wind blows and those seeds get, you know, then you have an orchard. Don't we wish it was that easy? So, and then our actions can get stronger or weaker based on our attitude about it, you know, our motivation, the field that you're performing the action towards or with or whatever, you know. What else? So there are basically 3 types of results. They're really 4, but for some reason they put 2 of them together. So one of them is that projecting result that we talked about, or fruitional result or throwing result, you know, the ones that are complete and strong enough to ripen as a cause for a rebirth. Yes, then you have also environmental effects. So it's not just, you know, that those can be caused by complete or incomplete karma. Sort of like they're the little paintbrushes over here, little incomplete karma. We'll give this some definition. And it could be good, could be bad. So, and then we have the effects that are either similar to the cause or similar to the effects. So what is an effect that's similar to a cause? So like if the cause is anger, what would be an effect that's similar to that cause?
Impatience.
You keep practicing the mind of anger, like impatience.
Habit.
It's habit. The more you do it, the more you're going to do it. It's really simple. Then the effect that is similar to the effect. So not only do you have the habit of anger, say if it was anger that was the cause, what else can you experience because of it?
Angry people.
Angry people.
Beaten up.
Well, I mean, it's the same with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, so this thing of, oh, why are they doing this to me? All you have to do is look at you. You don't have to look elsewhere. And most of the time we can imagine having done something similar in this very, we don't have to go far, Now, unusual events, things that are unusual in anybody's world in with good conditions, then, you're going to have to go to past lives and you're not going to be able to identify it. But everything that we experience, we can take responsibility for. Does that mean we deserve it? It's not about that. It's just simple cause and effect. If we plant a seed and the conditions finally are there, it will grow.
So if the cause is grasping,
Mhm.
then
So what is the effect? What is the effect that is similar to the cause? If the cause is grasping,
Is it like greed?
well, it's just grasping. You continue to grasp. The habit of one life doesn't just go away. You'll just keep going. And we see this in children. They're born with habits, Yeah. It's just habits. Yeah. The disadvantage of thinking it's a personality trait is, what does that sound like? It's permanent. You can't do anything about it. It's just who you are. And that's, the Buddha would say, ha. Okay. So the effect of grasping, the effect that's similar to, I think they call it the result similar to the effect or something. Anyway, it's confusing. I've confused myself. But the other one is not only, so what might be the result of grasping as far as you experiencing that, the experience is similar to the cause?
Selfish.
And being around selfish people that are, or that, grasp after you or grasp after stuff or whatever it is,
Which is really fear, fear that they're going to lose something.
That's all of attachment is fear.
Yeah.
It's all fear, but it's given a specific name other than fear. So we don't look at it as if it's, like there's danger out there, because that's not really what it is. It's that we're afraid of not getting what we want.
Right.
And as much of it as we want. No, that's not fear. That's greed. They feel like fear. No, but fear is when your life's in danger. Fear is when your child's life is in danger. Fear is, but yes, it's because we're attached. But we even feel fear when somebody else's child runs out the street, But it's,
The only positive fear would be the fear of being born in the lower realm.
Yes.
causing you to practice the Dharma.
So fear of,
Otherwise,
that's why they say that karma, understanding cause and effect, leads you to enlightenment, is because it makes you aware that some actions will lead you to the lower realms, some actions are going to keep you going to better realms so that you can become enlightened, get out of this whole thing. Yeah. So fear of being born in the lower realms, that's what they say is the source of refuge. There are two causes of refuge, is fear and faith. So the fear is of like being born in the lower realms. Faith is confidence in the teachings. And that if we implement them, things will turn out okay. The confidence in the teachings, nowhere in the teachings does it say somebody will come rescue you. Now, the good news is it doesn't mean you don't create the cause to be helped. We do create the cause to be helped. You know, we're interdependent, we meet the teachings, you know, we create causes to do that.
Come here.
You know, we are part of the whole thing of why the FPMT's existence. You know, all these centers around the world, you know, that we bumped into one. You know. I mean, that's still, when I look at my life, it's unbelievable I ever walked into one. It's like, I mean, I had absolutely zero interest in a spiritual path. I did have interest in being a better person, but I did not have any interest. I mean, I just, you know, didn't occur to me. It's really kind of funny. And then of all places, a Tibetan Buddhist center. I walked into this little place with all its tankas, and it was a tiny little place, you know, and it was in these big statues, in spite of the fact that it was a tiny little place, you know, and just kind of went, whoa. That's not my thing at all. So, you know, I'm not artistic, so the paintings didn't mean a thing to me. I didn't care. I don't like religious art, you know. None of my preferences were represented. You know, so it's just, you know, but I had the karma ripening that the first teaching I heard was on compassion. And that was that. I was done for. So. Compassion. It was a weekend, 3-day teaching on compassion. I took refuge on Sunday. This is not recommended to have 3 teachings. There are 3 days of teachings to take refuge. But I did. And then 2 months later, I met Venerable Rabina, asked her how to become a nun. Karma ripens and is just like, it took me 4 years to follow through on that. So anyway, you know, I mean, so it's just, we think of things as random. That's partly because we didn't grow up with a culture of thinking about cause and effect as far as our consciousness is concerned, you know. So, so it's just a new idea. I'm sure in countries where karma is not a new idea, and with rebirth and thinking that there's rebirth, so it matters, you know, that you want to live a good life so that your next life will be good too, you know, all that kind of stuff. But, you know, so for us, you know, it all just seems kind of random, and, you know, it's particularly for people we don't like, you know, any success that happens to someone we don't like, you know, it's just got to be how they get that kind of luck. So we don't want to use karma, the teachings on karma as a way to judge people. We can use it as a way to judge actions, but not people, because we don't know who's a Buddha. We don't know who's a Bodhisattva. So they may be making an action or appear to be making an action that's totally greedy or blah, blah, blah. We have no idea why. We can't read their minds. But we can judge the action. We can say, oh, I don't want to do that because I know blah, 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 blah. We use our reasoning, you know. We can even say, oh, I'm not going to follow that teacher because I'm not too sure about that. Yeah, that's why we check out teachers. We don't want to just follow along. Yes, Elaine.
You had said you can only experience the actions you created.
The
Right.
results of action you create. Yeah.
Okay, so my father was a Holocaust survivor. He lost his entire family and God knows how many other people. They all created the causes for that?
Yes. Now, but you look at history,
Mhm.
okay, and you see that there are many groups that have had similar experiences. The Tibetans, you know, that run out of their country, 1 million people died, you know, it's you know, Russia and Stalin, you know, it's just, it's so, you know, and you look at our history and we are a part of that,
Mhm.
you know, so we have all created the cause to be murdered, to be tortured, to be this and that, you know, and the condition ripened. I can't imagine how long Hitler will be in the hell realms, assuming that he is as he appeared to be. You know, it's, again, it's not about blame. We saw, you know, and it also means the people who died, that karmic seed is finished. You know, that got exhausted. People who survived that, you know, they also exhausted that seed for being in the concentration camp and blah, 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 blah. Hitler might end up in concentration camps again and again and again and again and again and again and again. How many people? 6 million, how many times? You know, so this is why you don't go up to someone and say, oh, you're in the Holocaust. Ah, that was your fault.
Yeah.
Because it's not relevant. It's not even, you know, there's no way of knowing what eon it was that they created the cause. You know, it can be, and we don't know how they got there. You know, I think about all of our habits, like when we're young, like my nephew, you know, would turn over rocks and stamp on all the insects that would crawl out. You know, that's not a good start, you know. And then, you know, but, you know, I killed cockroaches that way, but mostly I did. I enlisted other people to do it because, you know, so, you know, that's, to me, that's even worse. So I had two things and, you know, I wanted them dead and I wanted someone else to do it for me. So it was all nice and clean for me. So, you know, so you got that. But then you think about, you know, like farmers and people who, you know, like they have to clear the land and all these things have living beings in them, you know, and they kill lots of living beings to make the ground ready for their crops or whatever, you know. And then and then we develop things that make it easier, you know, like nets for fishing. So you just throw out the net, you can bring in quite a haul, and you're killing all these sentient beings, you know. So it's like whales. You know, whales, you know, when they open their mouth, they swim around, they kill millions of things every second or something. It's like incredible, you know. They were probably fishermen in previous life with the nets, you know. So it's just so we just want to think about how different it is to do an action where you end up killing something, but your mind totally gets that, you know, understands that this, you know, like the fact that in order to eat, we end up killing, you know, whether it's, you know, no matter what kind of food you eat, it's either something's big killed in the process, you know, and that we have respect for that. So we don't waste food. So we don't, you know, whatever. I mean, you know, so that we're respectful. Hunters, you know, back in the day, the Native Americans had quite the rituals around, you know, the life of the animal that, you know, provided food for the group, all that kind of stuff. That stuff matters. It means you're not killing for fun. It means you're not killing because you hate something. It means, and you don't even want to kill because you really like something. That's the trouble with things like fishing and hunting for food, is that when you don't need to at all, it can become just greed. So these are the kinds of things, that can create the cause eventually to end up with very ugly results. But then they're finished. They burnt up that seed. Doesn't mean they didn't do lots of those things. Like Hitler will be doing that a lot. He's going to have that experience again and again and again and again. That'll be probably one of his hell realms for eons. So, but it's our experiences are not random. It's not just bad luck or good luck. It's just that conditions have come together and your seed is ripened. So all the people that managed to survive the Holocaust, which is kind of unbelievable, all the conditions weren't there for them to lose their lives. No. Yeah.
That's a really tough one for me, because if someone is under delusion that this group of people is bad and, our society is going to be better, I mean, that's the cause. And then, and the effect is all these people being brutally murdered,
but they also did the same thing.
Or whether.
Are you following that part?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard for me though, whether, say manifest destiny, we're Americans, so we can conquer you.
Yeah, all those are just delusions.
Yeah, but I don't see how the conquered, it's their karma.
It's just a circle. So the people who oppress become the oppressed in some future life. That's the effect similar to the, the experience similar to the cause. Okay. So we're just trading places all the time. Like if we don't have, some people manage to come out of the Holocaust and it's very impressive without hatred. And it's impressive, So they're really finished with that. So that event did not create in themselves the mind that wants to harm others. So, and a lot of people seem to have come out like that. It's just, I think it's very impressive. I don't think I'm that far along. So, but understanding that, and no one should expect someone in the middle of a Holocaust to understand this. But if you ever did you ever see things about Tibetans, like how they felt when they were, blah, blah, blah. Well, people who were alive at the time, most of them just felt like, okay, well, we created the cause for this, Now, the Dalai Lama asked, or in his region, all those people, his group asked for help. They asked the US for help. They asked England for help, in the form of soldiers. They wanted, and they had them come train their own men. Monks gave up their robes in order to pick up the guns, So it's not, it's not like there's some simple answer to these things, or necessary for that to be the only, the only answer is to turn the other cheek, that's not it. So it's about not developing the mind of hatred. We can do things to protect ourselves, to try to, get out of harm's way, to, blah, blah, blah. But if we develop the mind of hatred at the same time, I mean, it's a sort of a separate action, then we're creating the cause to end up here again. But we're just, that's where, like, when I read a book about the Taliban, I forgot what it was called. Anyway, the woman writing it, she'd not been able to go outside for 2 years because it wasn't safe for women to leave the home. this is the old Taliban, not the new version of them, same things, So her brother was working in a university and was working in a lab, and he was told to go in and clean a lab. And so he went, and all it was female body parts. Someone had, some people just gotten in there and just chopped women up, And I thought, geez, how does someone be able to, how can someone, what is that? Just kind of thing. And then I thought about my youth of being quite indignant about how unequal men and women were treated in our society. And, it wouldn't make me mad. And I realized I've got to get that mind up, because that's what it leads to where you can just, take a machete and cut them all up into parts, because you see them as worth nothing and you hate them. This is where our mind goes. If we don't check our minds, we become those people.
Habit.
It's habit. Yeah, it just gets stronger. So in this life, it just, didn't cause any real harm to anybody, but it gets stronger. What if I'm, born into a military type lifestyle in the next life, so I have access to guns. What might I do then, to the groups I hate? This is what we have to think about.
We can have energy for something that we feel is unjust, but not hate.
Right. It's about actions. We can be, know that actions are wrong. We can judge actions, but judging people is a very dangerous direction, because they're all ignorant, just like you. I'm sorry.
They're imputing just like.
Yeah, they're just imputing everything. It's out of their ignorance. It's out of their thinking that their way is the only way.
They're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, they're doing exactly the same thing. We just don't like what they've decided.
Yeah.
I mean, they're thinking the wrong thing. Yeah, of course they're thinking the wrong thing. But it comes back to the same way we make judgments, the same way we make divisions, the same way we group people. The bad people are the ones who disagree with me. The stupid people are the ones that disagree with me. It's pointless. It's not true. It's based on aversion and attachment and ignorance. So we need to be honest with ourselves when we're looking at our stories, so we can see, oh, look what I'm doing. I've just thrown all of those people into one big heap over here, and as if I know them. As if I don't understand that even their thoughts are based on incorrect assumptions. Like, getting what I want will actually make me happy. I was watching those guys, the two men that have been arrested, probably be extradited or something, that hate women. I mean, they're no misogynist, And I was listening to what they were saying. I've forgotten what their names are, but, and they were talking about why they, women are so useless and worthless. I mean, it's just like, and these are fairly young men, and it's just like, I've been spoiled living in places where it's not politically correct to talk like. It's not that they don't believe it, it's just that they don't talk like that unless the atmosphere changes. So I know it's difficult, and I'm not asking you to buy it, But for me, the fact that things are not random means that I have power. And if I clean up my actions and clean up the way I think, the conditions for these kinds of seeds will not ripen. And if we're honest and we can see, okay, I've had those kinds of thoughts, and if they got worse, it would end up like that. We can purify the whole thing, not just that little, oh, I was just not nice. Or I just thought, but we group people all the time. So we want to recognize that and see where that leads, understand that grouping all by itself is making divisions, and it's a habit that can lead to mass murder.
Did you say Hitler could possibly come back as a human?
Eventually, after about, 6 million countless eons of hell realms. But even Hitler displayed, Buddha nature. He had friends, he had people he cared about,
Yeah.
But he practiced, whatever it was for a long, long, long time. And he got help. So it's a very, so we just want to recognize our own potential for harm given conditions. I have no idea how I'd behave in a war zone.
What does suicide factor into that?
Suicide's a different story because it's not really about hatred of someone else, but you don't want to practice the mind of hatred towards yourself either.
Right.
And also this idea that I know that I'll be better off dead. I mean, that certainly isn't true in the teachings. If you understand the teachings, you have no idea where you're going to go.
Right.
So, that may just be wrong. So it's, but also you're not looking at the harm you're causing others.
Yeah.
Because people suffer when someone commits suicide.
Yeah.
There's just no doubt about it. And I'm not saying that every act of suicide is somehow, the worst action they could have taken. I don't know. I don't know what's in their minds. I have no idea what I think about adult euthanasia, for themselves, I don't know. I have friends that are not moving out of Oregon anytime soon because they want that right.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting.
Mhm.
But what we want, so instead of worrying about that for ourselves, it's more of just reminding ourselves, I don't want to waste this opportunity because we've met the teachings. We have some clue how to work with our minds. We can continue to do that. So why would I waste this opportunity? Just because I'm not thrilled with my life or aging or, all that kind of stuff. Because that's a very self-centered action. So it's practicing a mind that's grasping. But again, I can't read the minds of these people who make those choices. Don't know. So I remember His Holiness saying one time that, if a family is being destroyed financially because of the care of, an elderly person in their family or whatever, he could see why it would make sense that they would turn off all those machines, whatever, that it's just, we're interdependent. So we can't really judge other people's choices. We can judge the actions. We can say, oh, not for me, but it's just like, we really don't know what's in their mind. And we can probably all imagine a scenario where somebody has a particular type of illness or something, they decide to get assisted suicide or something, and that they're doing it solely for their compassion for someone else. So, but this is what always comes up when discussions about karma, are these impossible situations. So, you kind of just put it on the shelf until the more you reflect on it and, and kind of check it out. You don't make broad conclusions, just of that can't be true. But remember, there's nobody controlling karma. It isn't like someone's judging a bunch of people saying, oh, you deserve this.
Right.
Nothing like that. And our response to what happens to us creates incredible effects. So, how we work with our minds in every situation really matters. We can work. Everything is workable. Even though we might hate working, it's workable. We don't have to that thing about don't give up, we just, it's, even our mind that like, I always had trouble with alcoholics, because I grew up with one, really didn't like it too much, and so it's like, I could imagine working with, the victims of such, things, but with the the alcoholics themselves, it's like, no, I don't think I have the patience for that. Well, it's not true. I discovered that's not true, but it's, so we all have tough areas to go in to, but it's usually about ourselves. We have a personal connection. We have something, some sort of, we've experienced some sort of harm around it, or someone we love experienced harm around it. And those are tough, so you don't start there, that's expecting too much out of yourself. But over time, you can start looking at people with compassion. It's like, gosh, I can't imagine how the mind got there. Boy, I hope I haven't created the cause to get in those same kind of conditions to end up with that kind of mind, because I wouldn't want that mind. I wouldn't want the mind of Hitler. I mean, it's just a hideous mind. I wouldn't want it. All the tormented people in the world, they're suffering tremendously with their hates and their grasping and everything. So so now we have to think good stuff. Like all the good stuff in the world, because there's good stuff happening in the world. We created the cause for that. Yeah. Isn't that just remarkable? Hitler created the cause to have a human rebirth.
He wasted it, but he still had the
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah, no, well, he had the all the things you have to have in order to have a good rebirth, and with power. So he had some really strong things. So yeah, so I mean, this is the thing. We're a mixed bag of stuff. So we want to use our experiences in a way that is positive. Instead of turning it outward and blaming others or thinking, they're the problem, they're bad, they're blah, blah, blah. We want to say, what is the opportunity here for me to work with my mind? That makes sense?
Yes.
So there are all these hideous things that have occurred, but there's also, I want to know what's going on. I hate feeling left out. Nap?
Rest.
Yes. For some people, this is very late at night.
I'm sure. I know.
So what can we think about positive things? So we've torn Hitler apart. So I think of people like Jimmy Carter and Rosalind Carter, think about, I don't know, Gandhi, but just, His Holiness, Mother Teresa.
There's a movie out about Mother Cabrini.
Mother Cabrini.
Cabrini in New York. There's a movie out about her. She did a lot of good. So right.
Then we think about, whole movements, Doctors Without Borders, Habitat for Humanity.
Boca Helping Hands, right?
Exactly, Boca Helping Hands, Second Harvest, all, there's, the people who do all the eye surgery in India and Tibet, cleft palates, yep.
Humane Society.
The Humane
Say that.
Society, yes.
Mhm.
So it's so there's all this stuff going on all the time.
Thinking about everybody that's in this room.
Yeah. I mean, like, not all of us are drawn to
And so,
the mundane, gathering of stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and that's all we want out of our lives, or that's all we think about, Unfortunately, most people aren't. That's what's so cool, is that the majority of people are pretty good people,
Mhm.
So some are in terrible conditions and they still work with it. I remember that, the women that were the widows of 9/11, they started a group to help the widows in Afghanistan,
Mhm. That's right.
micro loans and trying to get the women, because they didn't have their husbands. So then they, how it is in certain cultures, women aren't allowed to work. So if they don't have a husband anymore, they become, it's really, beggars. And their children all suffer if the husband's family doesn't take them in, and they will take them in because you don't have any rights to your children. So, so they, so that these groups decide, oh, well, let's go see, well, because it's this knowledge that my heart will heal better if I work with this, instead of going towards hatred.
And help the other people. That's quite a healer when you're helping other people in a group like that.
Yeah, especially people whose husbands hurt yours, both sides,
Mhm.
Thich Nhat Hanh would do all these groups for Vietnam vets, and try to help his, people from his country work with Americans, so lots of good stuff that go on. Anyway, and we create the causes for those things, so we want to be part of that. Those are the kinds of things we want to be creating. That's the karma we want to be, the little seeds on our mind stream. So, all right. Any questions? Everybody over it? I should never say things like that. That's a terrible thing for me to say. Find the page. So rejoice, that the law of cause and effect isn't just about stuff that the bad stuff that happens to us. It explains everything.
Yeah.
Just like apple trees come from apple seeds, everything comes from something. It's not produced. So one of those things, like, so how do we, when we rejoice, you always want to think, that we don't want to make it into pride, of course, but we do want it to help support our confidence that we have Buddha nature, that we're capable of good things, all that kind of stuff. And also to remember, someone probably taught us that, it's like, teachers have taught us most things, so it's like very few things did we just figure out all by ourselves. We're interdependent. So it's an opportunity to also rejoice for people who, taught you you know, so. Okay. So we'll dedicate. This is on page 233, 35, 235. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may we quickly attain the state of Guru Buddhas and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow. All right. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra too realize things as they are, I too dedicate all these merits in the best way.
And I may follow their perfect example.
We breathe at completely different paces. All of us. It's like, I feel like we're doing it in round. I dedicate all these roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by the victorious ones thus gone of the 3 times, so I might perform good works. I dedicate whatever virtues I have ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of perfect pure Lozan Drapa to shine forever. Along my prayer for His Holiness. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig, Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. A swift return of Zopa Rinpoche, peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Lozan father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands. Please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. Whilst striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the 3 jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. So,